There are events taking place all over the country to mark National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
It's a moment for everyone to pause and reflect on the painful legacy of Canada's residential school system. And there are a number of commemorations happening in Toronto today, including an annual Day of Remembrance hosted by NAMI Res.
Our Afua Baah is there this afternoon. Afua, let's talk about what this nonprofit Indigenous organization does and how they're marking today.
Yes, good afternoon, Faizan. Good afternoon, Mel. NAMI Res is a non-profit, multi-service, Indigenous-led organization that's based in Toronto that helps Indigenous men that might be experiencing homelessness, as well as Indigenous people in general in Toronto. And they do that through streets-to-home outreach programs, as well as a number of different skills training programs and a number of events that they hold throughout the year. One of those events actually happening right now. It is the 3rd annual Day of Remembrance, and it is meant to commemorate the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. And so joining us now to talk about today's event is Steve Teekins, the Executive Director of NAMI Res. Steve, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks for coming out.
So it has been quite an event-filled day. Talk to me about this gathering and what it entailed so far.
Okay, so I'm really pleased with the turnout today. We saw a sea of orange t-shirts everywhere in our park here today. And, we had some of our men that participate in our programs do an opening drum song, and they sang really beautiful. It was really good to hear them. They started us off in a really good way. Then we had some guest speakers talk about some of their family's experience with residential schools. We had one speaker talk about how he's still able to speak the language, and he talked about some of his family and the challenges they had at retaining the language. And I spoke a little bit about the 94 calls to action and how we still have to do a lot of heavy lifting to achieve those 94 calls. Only 11 to 13 of those calls to action have been achieved, so we still have a long ways to move forward. But this event was a really beautiful day, opportunity for our non-Indigenous neighbors to come out and learn and hear firsthand.
Absolutely. It is not only about sharing the culture, but also, reliving the culture, recounting the culture, being able to share it proudly, share it boldly, and share it with others. Mm-hmm. You spoke about the calls to action, 94 calls to action that were brought in place in 2015. Yeah. Only 11 to 13 have now sort of been fulfilled. Some are in progress. Which calls to action do you think could be actually fulfilled right now and, in the general landscape of calling on Ottawa to do more and to do more quickly?
Okay, well, I'll give you an example. NAMI Res, we run a health center called the Doje Meno Nasewanong. We're very sparsely funded. Underfunding for Indigenous programs is not a new story. It's something that many of our communities have lived with for a long time. It's a huge injustice. Often when we have Indigenous programs such as health programming, we're working with people that have a high degree of need, often much higher than those of people from mainstream society. And the reason that there's a high level of need is because of things related to colonialism. So it's a real shame that, little centers like ours trying to provide primary health care are struggling to keep our funding going, where you see all these large hospitals starting up new Indigenous departments and offering services to our community where our community may not have asked for those types of services. So in the realm of health services, some of the calls to action pertaining to for Indigenous, by Indigenous services can be taken care of quite easily by letting those funding levers go so we can provide an adequate level of care and services.
Absolutely. And then just finally here, seeing all walks of life, both young and old here, participating in today's event, how does one, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous community members, continue the path towards healing and reconciliation beyond this day? Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this is a start of forming a good relationship with our neighbors. It's a good way to involve our young people because they are the next generation. I think if we can impart some knowledge with our young people and they carry it into their adulthood, I think that's going to make a better future for all Canadians and improve Indigenous Canadian relationships moving forward.
Perfect. Steve Teekins, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, and so people are still enjoying all of the different Indigenous-led activities. There's a teepee that is just to the left of me here that people are learning more about Indigenous culture. So much more to experience, but of course this is not just just for September 30th. This is an opportunity to learn about Indigenous culture well beyond this day, for all of us to come and learn together about our Indigenous friends and family who are here. Mel, Faisal, I'll send it back inside to you.
All right, that is our Afua Baah. Appreciate this. Thank you.